So this is something that I want to work through in terms of guarding. Because I've already previously what I think is take this one, see if you can hit a defensive, and then the other one is easier to guard. Actually, hold on. Yeah, so that's what I would do. But let's see. Right now, if I do that and you attack with your Vanguard, and you hit a trigger, then like my defensive doesn't mean as much because they basically cancel each other out. So I'm still having to guard the same amount, more or less.
Vanguard.
Listen, you just call whenever you take. Yeah. Attacks costs counter. Okay, so and Global Mind says at the end of the battle, the unit boosted if you have a set order.
Yep.
So okay, so I'm guessing the way that you want to attack is first swing, then the other rear guard actually,
Correct.
and then with your Vanguard, and then bring in an Obscure die. I'm assuming that's the line you're going for.
Yep.
Okay, so in that case, because you specifically want to swing with your rear guard second, then I probably would take this because then I go to 3, which isn't an even number. If I hit a defensive, that's good because that means that your other attack won't, or your Global Mind won't hit. Yeah, so you'd either have to attack with Eva and give up the Obscure die, or you just have to continue and it's easier all the way around. So
yeah, the other thing
makes sense.
The other thing to think about is the shield value that you're able to guard. So if you, let's say we're gonna drop a 15k shield anyway, then your line of play of taking a damage first still works out because you were gonna drop 15k anyway. But if you didn't have it and you only have 5k to drop, it might be best to guard early and then take the next attack if you couldn't in that way.
Right. Okay, I was gonna say basically guard while you can, in that scenario.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, I'll take this one.
Perfect.
And we do hit the crit, so 20. Yeah.
And then I'm going to attack, even though it's gonna miss. But at the end of the battle, this guy goes into soul, and I counter charge. So you're at 3 with 20k. So that's on attack and counter blast and soul blast. Will mine. Search for obscuro. Where you at? There. Call over it. Double attack. 10k. Want to double attack. And crit. So Ava is 18k. So this is 1 to pass.
Okay, I know that 1 to pass isn't super great. My hand is weird actually because I have so many copies of Overlord. How much? Because the only really guard I have is 2 PGs, so maybe it was actually smarter to search another Madoka if I already had one. But I can guard with a Madoka who will go to 10, so I'll be at 30. So that's 2 to pass for you. Then that leaves me with either a PG or a trigger to guard. So if you don't see any offensive triggers, I can throw down the crit to guard your. Because I'll be at 30, you'll be at 23. Although I could just PG the Vanguard and throw down. This is where I get stuck. Is like, what's the best guard? Because right now my only defensives are 2 PGs, the Madoka at 10k, and the 15k shield. The rest of my hand is 3 copies of the end and Ethan. So
got it. So I'm
in a tough spot where I'm not sure what to guard. You go ahead.
If I were in your shoes, I would assess like, do I want to stay at 3 damage as well? Because it seems like you can probably guard both attacks, essentially. And if you do, you stay at 3, then next turn you're able to do your Overlord shenanigans, and you probably see more cards.
Right.
And if you're using Ethan, that'll be another card that you'll see potentially. And you may get more cards back to defend for the next turn, maybe another PG or something.
Okay, yeah.
So that's one way to look at it. And then if you do take a hit, next turn you may get another defensive trigger that can kind of help you stay in the game too as well. So
yeah,
that's one thought. The other thought is that you take this damage and risk potentially going to 5 if I do get a crit, and then you guard the Obscure, saving you a card or 2 in hand, and then the next turn you can come back, but you're at 4 or 5 damage potentially, and I'm not sure if that's really ideal because I'm still at 1 damage. That makes sense?
Yeah, I got you. So I think so between those two, even though not guarding this potentially saves me a couple cards in hand, and now in the long run that's going to be way worse because if I'm at 5 or 4, that's where you want me to be anyway. Like that's your win con.
Yeah.
So even though I'd lose a lot of cards out of hand right now, if I guard and stay at 3 in the long term, because when it comes back to my turn, I'm going to see like 4 new cards. I'm also going to kill your Obscura died.
But it is 10k shield and intercept continuous.
Right. Well, if you don't have 2 Obscura then I can just swing at the 1, and then there's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
right
anyway, yeah, and you can retrieve it with the
order.
With the order, but if you did that, your Obscura wouldn't have a crit unless you had another order. So you can get one off Ava. So, but you can only look at the top 2 in that case because you'd have to start with 2. So you either have the 3rd order in your hand, which if you did, actually, that wouldn't be very good because you'd be like almost 0 shield.
Yeah, I know, right? I only have 2 cards.
So that might. So I could get a lot of info just by if I. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely probably better to guard and stay at a lower damage count, so I could save cards in hand for the long game.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to take so much. So
plus Persona right is a thing, so the attacks are going to be bigger too per attack.
Yeah, 33 for sure. Yeah, and then that would just be that. I'd go so far as to say that like if I took this hit here, that would pretty much be functionally the end of the game. Not actually the end, but that'd put me so far. Even at 4 damage, that would push me so far, and I'd probably not going to get a chance to ride it to the end. Or if I do, that's going to be like the last thing that I do. So I think I'll PG this because if you don't hit any triggers, then I can guard with a normal unit. But if you hit something that's too hard, I can just drop the other PG.
Yeah.
I could also try to, I know I've been told that against the quote-unquote gray decks that you generally want to PG the Vanguard, and I'm inclined to agree with that because they seem really scary all the time.
Yeah, you just never know with the trigger checks, especially if you haven't seen as many crits or like over triggers.
So in this particular case too, since I know that you don't do anything that really has guard restricts, or at least as far as I'm aware, Ava doesn't.
No.
I'm gonna guard with a Blitz order. That way I don't reveal to you that I have 2 PGs. Because if I did the one that I drew into, then he's got another PG sitting in hand. But if I do the order, then I know that you don't know the other guy in my hand. So we'll do that. I'm just gonna remove this.
Especially if I whiff too. And then at that point, you could drop a 15k or 10k.